and welcome to the Legends Lounge. My name's Andy Cousins and I'm chairman of the Official Supporters Club. Thank you very much for attending this evening. We are privileged to have some very special guests with us tonight. But first of all, may I just thank a couple of people that have put this together. The Official Supporters Club, especially Hannah, who's put all this together at sort of fairly short notice. So thank you very much for that. We're also, tonight, we are streaming it via audio. Thanks very much to the Swindon Broadbent Lounge for doing it, and Joe over there, who'll be doing all the things. Basically, the format tonight, what we'll do is Vic will bring the panel on in a little while, and we will have questions for about an hour. We will then break. The bar is open all the way through this, and the kiosk will be open at half time. And then we'll come back sort of 8:30 until there's the questions are exhausted. Just a few parish notices. You probably all know where the toilets are there and there. The fire exits are there and there. And I think that's just about everything to say. Apart from we have another event here on Monday, October the 3rd, where we have a Monday night panel. We're not having another one as we're Lee Peacock and Christian Roberts here. For the proper fiver, just go on our web and come and join us on that one as well. I'm sure that will be very interesting. Right, without any further ado, what basically will happen is Vic will take questions from the floor, and also if you've got the little pieces of paper, you can write on them, and also at half time. And also the good men from the Swindon Broadbent will be wandering around with one of the microphones, I believe, isn't it? And so they'll be able to, you can ask your question if you like from the floor. All right. Without further ado, I'll hand you over to the inimitable Victor Morgan. Thank you.
Other words have been used, trust me. Before we get underway, I just wanted to say a few words about the disappointing news today. I know a lot of you here are Swindon Robin Speedway fans, and I read the news the same as you did. No more Speedway in Swindon, which is terrible. So all of those of you who have attended Blunsdon and watched the likes of Briggs and Kilby and Ashby and Keene and all those people, very sad news today. Swindon Robin's no more. So hopefully one day, who knows? Right, should we get some guests on, to paraphrase Graham Norton? I think we should. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together for our Chief Executive, Mr. Rob Angus. Our Technical Director, Mr. Sandro Di Michele. If you were at Grimsby on Saturday, you might have noticed this gentleman stride over to the away fans, give us that snarl to say, yes, we've won. Would you please welcome our head coach, Mr. Scott Lindsay. Go on, give us a snarl, go on. Ladies and gentlemen, next, the man who really needs no introduction. He saved the football club. Didn't save neighbours, but I'll let him off that. Would you please welcome our chairman and owner, Mr. Clem Morfuni. Right, this evening is all about your questions. I'll ask a couple to start with, but really it's all about yours. We want to know what you think, how you think it's going, all that kind of thing. The one thing I would start off with, gentlemen, I know tomorrow the Football League clubs are meeting in Walsall to discuss the cost of living crisis, etc., etc. Early kick-off times is one of those things being discussed. Who wants to take that one? Rob?
There we go. That's better. Yeah, it's something that's obviously been topical at the moment, the early kick-off times. Was something that we'll have to weigh up. Personally, we've worked out the calculation for the cost of the floodlights. I personally think that the loss of revenue from a earlier kick-off and the struggle maybe of people to get to the game for families who maybe have children playing football on a Saturday morning then rushing to a game afterwards. I'm personally not in favour at the moment. We'll listen to the arguments to assess it, but for me, I'm not sure it's going to make sense, and I think you lose more revenue from the costs that you'll save from our football club. But we'll work it through. But I'm not convinced at the moment.
And of course, in the depths of winter, say November, December, you'd have to put the floodlights on anyway, wouldn't you? Well,
yeah. I mean, you probably have to put them on a bit, absolutely. So as I say, and for the saving it will generate, if you're just really talking about the floodlights, I'm not convinced. I know, Sandra, you've had a chat with Mansfield, haven't you? But for me, I can't see it. And if we were chatting before, if we're going away somewhere where we might not normally have an overnight, but because it's an earlier kick-off, you need one, then that's going to add additional costs to us as the away club. So I'm not sure.
Looking forward to Barrow on the 17th of December, I can tell you. Sandro, if I might ask you then, what have Mansfield said? Because obviously we play Mansfield a couple of weeks after their game against Walsall, which they put forward already. So what's your thinking on that one?
Yeah, look, Mansfield came to us and they've been the club that have probably been the most active and the most vocal about this. I heard Sharp on Jim White's show yesterday morning talking about it. They believe financially it makes sense for them. Naturally, it's going to come up tomorrow at the EFL meeting. And I know David well, and he said to me, you're one of the clubs that, we're going to speak to. Is it something that you'd entertain? Now, Scott and myself have had a good chat about it. We've got to finalise the decision. We've got to go back to Mansfield tomorrow. But there's lots of factors for us to consider. And there's also like a footballing kind of, we're creatures of habit, right? And the lads get into routines, your pre-match meal, all that preparation in the build-up to the game. It obviously starts a long, long time before it starts, days before. But there's lots of other things to factor in. And, I'll probably bore you all with talking about numbers and data later on. But, we look at how we perform on various kick-off times and away trips and length of trip, etc. So I think probably sort of waffling a little bit and getting to the point where we're all in agreement. 3 p.m. kickoffs, 3 p.m. Saturdays. That's what football's all about. Don't want to change it.
Scott, 3 wins on the bounce, Lindsay. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, obviously you've got to prepare a team, haven't you? And if you're suddenly going to play at 12:30 on at Barrow on a Saturday lunchtime, all sorts of plannings go into it and making sure they're right for that game.
Well, first of all, like Rob said, that we'd potentially look at doing the Mansfield A trip. Of course, if it's an earlier kick-off, then it would have to be an overnight. So like Rob just said, it'll be an added cost to the club anyway. From my point of view, the preparation, obviously, we'd have to change things in terms of their pre-match meal. Would almost be a breakfast. And then we'd have to get them out of bed earlier and on in order for us to do that, So it does get in the way of prepping the game for sure. We're used to prepping for a 3 o'clock kickoff, and that's, in my opinion, how it should remain.
Clem, what are your thoughts on that? I think you'll probably be back on the other side of the planet by then, but what are your thoughts on it?
I don't think we should do it. I think we should start at 3 o'clock. Simple.
Fair enough. There you are then. Right, we've got a question at the back. If you'd like to stand up, shout your name and tell us what the question is, please.
As I understand it, and as I say, Sandra will know at the EFL meeting tomorrow, so we'll know a bit more, but both clubs have to agree. So if, one club, said they want to do it and the other said no, then you revert back to the 3 o'clock. Unless we hear different tomorrow, that's my understanding.
Okay, fair enough. Right, let's move on to your questions from the floor then. We've heard they're pretty unanimous in the fact they want to stay at 3 o'clock, which is good news for those who travel from a long way away, which is another factor, isn't it? People, journeys, etc. Right, anybody want to stand up and ask a question to our panel? Yeah, That means I've got to put my glasses on then. Oh, have we got one? Okay. Yeah, let's have a look. I've got one here. Sorry about this. Right. Now, good question. Bearing in mind what happened last season, we'll probably ask this to Sandro and to Scott. This is from Old Duffer Ratter. The Old Duffer videos are magnificent. Watch them on YouTube. I think it is that. What is the risk of loan players being recalled in January? We seem to lose loan players after improving them. Now, Luke Jeffcott got his first goal on Saturday. What is the situation regards to Plymouth Argyle?
Yeah, so the situation with Plymouth Argyle is we've agreed a season-long loan for Luke, but we have the option to make it a permanent transfer. The option to make it permanent has to be activated in January. So now that, and of course, that's what's been agreed between both clubs as we did on the 1st of September, deadline day. That doesn't mean we can't also arrive at agreements and arrangements outside of what's been agreed. But essentially, we've agreed a fee already if we want to make it a permanent deal. If we didn't want to make it a permanent deal, Plymouth have the option to recall. Every loan deal that the parent club have the option to recall a player. And the same applies to us when we send players out on loan. You've kind of got this double-edged sword, which I think you're all aware of. You want them to come in and do well, but you get worried if they start doing too well. So that's kind of where we are. The same would apply to some of the other lads that are on loan, the likes of Fraser, Kieran Brennan, Solbrin, etc. So we're mindful of that. We're confident that certainly in the case of Luke, we've kind of covered ourselves to prevent that eventuality from happening. And you hope that you've got a good enough relationship with the club and the lads are good, but not so good that their parent club want to take them back.
Yeah, I think we saw, didn't we, last year, with Kane Kessler being the main one when we played Man City. I think Steven Gerrard must have been sat at home watching that on telly and then called him back the next day, pretty much, wasn't it? So we have to run the risk of that. And last year, it was almost like we built two squads, in effect. We built one at the start of the season, and then 3 or 4 of the loans went back, and then we had to rejig it around again. So it's not ideal, and we're hopeful that doesn't happen again this season, but kind of the risk you take when you do take a number of loan players.
As you know, we're streaming this in conjunction with this Tom Broadbent Lounge, and they ask for lots of questions from people who listen to that podcast. This is out and about in the crowd, and they'll pick a winner of what they think is one of the questions tonight to pick up a Dan Design special print. So well worth having a go. Ellis, what questions have we got?
We've got 2 winners actually.
I've got 2 prints. Oh, fair enough. Okay. Sorry.
2 seconds. Is this on? Is it on?
Hello?
Yeah, it's on.
Right, first question from Pieman on Twitter. How long till we can call the county ground our own?
Clem Morfuni, you are the man. You may have some news for us. What news might you have?
Thanks. We are putting the deposit down on the 31st of January. We've already done a deal with council. So that's it. Guaranteed. So that's what we're doing. And then we've got a 6 months completion.
At the end of January then, where does that put you? Does it the 50-50 with the trust that's in place and the county ground belongs to the club and 50% to the trust? Is that right?
50% the club and 50% the supporters group, the trust.
What about the current financial situation? Does that have any bearing on it? Obviously, you know, as a business, the markets are up and down there and there. Does that have any bearing on it?
In what respect?
Have you agreed a price and the value will stay the same, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that was the whole deal. We did that. When did we agree that, Rob? The number? Yeah, we agreed the number a couple of months ago. We done a deal with council, and so we're actually putting the deposit down on the 31st of January.
Fantastic news. I think we all are looking forward to that. And I assume when that's happened, you can go ahead and start with the plans that you've got in place to improve the ground.
Absolutely. So we're going to do planning permissions as soon as we get the deal done, and then go from there.
Fabulous news. I think we all wanted to hear that, didn't we? Got any more, Alice?
Yes. Sort of following on from that question, to raise more money and elevate the use of the county ground, when are we looking at potentially using it for concerts, etc.?
Rob, do you want to take that?
Look, I mean, they're buying the ground to be massive for the football club, and obviously the supporters. It creates, an asset, a legacy for the club. Obviously, we've then got to, as Glenn set out, look at the developments and the time of those developments. Those, I think, will take priority. We have looked at the idea of concerts. We looked at it last year. The thing that we need to bear in mind is the pitch, and the time it takes for the pitch to be repaired and work on it during the summer means that the window you've got is actually quite small, which put paid to last summer. So it's something we're keen to look at. But, getting a great pitch for, Scott and the team to play the fantastic football they do on is a real priority for us. And obviously we'll have the development focus as well. So it's something we'll consider, but it's not top priority.
Fabulous. We'll come back to your question in a little while. Got more from the floor here. This is from Anna T. Hello, Anna. Squad retention season on season. STFC are bottom of the League Two table based on player minutes accumulated 2021-2022, just below Rochdale, Hartlepool and Gillingham. Question, what are retention plans for future seasons? Sandra.
I think the retention plans are probably quite evident in the length of contract that we've given to players this summer. That's the key thing. So, yes, there's been a big turnover this summer. Quite a lot of players left. And obviously we've signed a lot, I think 21 in total, I believe. So, but we've kind of laid down the foundations down now. We've done the hard work. If you look at the length of contract of the majority of players that we've signed, they're 2-year deals. Most of them, the club has an option on as well. So we've got the club into a position now that I'd call them club-friendly deals, but effectively we're on the right side of the deal. If the player goes on and does really well, which we're confident they all will do because they're very good players, the club is protected. Now that protects us from a resale perspective and so on and so on. But what we didn't want to do was 12 months on from where the club was, we're in a very different position. We're in a position where we can offer longer deals. Obviously, being under embargo makes it much tougher, but we're now in the situation now where we won't have too many of those situations develop, where we've got a very good player and their contract's allowed to run down and they're allowed to walk out for nothing. So that will then answer your question about retention. So if we had this conversation in 12 months' time, I'd expect us to be at the top of that list because the majority of players that we've signed will still be contracted next year and longer than that and will still be playing for the club. Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, from my point of view, I think it's important that we have a settled squad. I don't like chopping and changing players. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think you supporters like that either. You get familiar with certain players, and I think it's good for the club to keep that. I think moving forward now, like Sandro just alluded to, is the fact that we've got players on 2- and 3-year deals. So, we see this squad now as the future, certainly in the next 2-3 years anyway, so you can build relationships with them players. I think that's important.
Right, anybody on the floor want to put their hands up and ask a question? George, what do you want to say?
Why are transfer fees still undisclosed? What advantage is it to the buying or the selling club? And how much do you get for own ability?
Mr. Angus.
I mean, it comes down to, it's a commercial deal that a lot of clubs want to keep confidential. It seems to the way it's gone through now. And also, a headline number doesn't often help. So quite often these days, they're paid made over a number of years. So they're spread. You can see a headline deal and everybody would get excited, but that might be paid over 4 or 5 years. And equally, deals are quite complex as well. So it depends if you include all the variations that might be in a deal. and stuff like that. So I think that's probably where you get to it, and people not wanting to show as well their hand that, you know, that they're willing to spend X for a certain type of player. I think in the broader now, you know, at the moment, you know, Newcastle United, for example, are worried about the Newcastle tax because everybody knows they've obviously got a lot of money now, and they therefore don't want to be seen or heard that they're paying over a certain amount. So I think it's just the way the market's gone now, really.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I do think, I know as a fan, you're thinking, oh, bloody hell, this goes like, they actually paid an awful lot for them. But it does work both ways. Obviously, both clubs have got to want to agree to announcing the figure. But you don't really want a load of clubs knowing that you've got a load of money burning a hole in your pocket, because you're going to pay over the odds, the Newcastle tax point. So it's, it's something that kind of, it has its pros, it has its cons. It probably doesn't appease you fans as much because you want to know the sort of the gritty details of it all. But it does help us as a club all the time for the fee to be undisclosed. Undisclosed.
We'll ask you again later. Alice, you got any more?
Yes. This comes from Rob. Now that the women's team has been brought into the club, how do the club plan to promote the team and take advantage of the success of the Lionesses this summer? And will the women's team play games at the county ground?
So we got a Clem on that. So I know you're keen on this, aren't you? So that's just, you have that.
What was the question again?
Now that the women's team has been brought into the club, how do the club plan to promote the team and take advantage of the success of the Lionesses this summer?
Look, we came here and had a look at the women's team, and obviously they weren't combined enough together. So I went and had a look at it. We're going to take over the media, take over the kid, the managers, and put money into it and get some new kid for them, managers, and promote them through our media people. So.
And also, are you planning on the women's team playing here at the county ground?
Yeah, I think there's two games that are going to be played at the county ground, and there's about 4 at the Foundation Park. I think there's already been a game played, and I went there on last Sunday, had a look at the game. So yeah, they played pretty well actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Scott, let's stop that squeaking, whatever you're doing. Scott, can I just ask you about those last 7 minutes and 54 seconds on Saturday, which, you know, for those of us who were there, we're at the other end, right? Everything's happening at that end. We have no idea what's going on. It's just a scramble, quite frankly. How were you?
Well, Sol Bryn was just outstanding within them moments, wasn't it? And when you've got a goalkeeper of you know that quality, you know, it settles your nerves a little bit, because you know that whatever happens, he's gonna probably pluck one out the top corner anyway. You know, and he certainly did that. I thought he was outstanding. When the 7 minutes went up, I just couldn't believe it. You know, I thought, wow, this is going to be the longest 7 minutes ever. But yeah, and that was really in them moments when they did put it on us as well, because I felt throughout the game, I felt we were in charge for most of it. I felt that we controlled. I thought it was dominant. I thought it was probably, certainly the first half was the best we've played. Second half, obviously with the sending off, became a different game. We had to obviously change shape, one man down, and it wasn't till them last 7 minutes when they really put it on us. But the lads were unbelievable. They put their bodies on the line for the club and the cause, and I was really pleased for that.
That was a magnificent performance and a very nice journey back. Thank you very much indeed for that. That's very good. Right, got more questions. Let's have a look. For pre-season next year, can you arrange a friendly in Gloucestershire, as there are a lot of fan base there? I think this is from, yeah, there we are. Lovely. I mean, how do you go about arranging pre-season friendlies? I mean, for those of us who live in the southwest of England, play Tiverton, Plymouth, Exeter, that would be lovely. Thanks very much. But how do you go about setting all that up? Who wants to take that?
It's one for me and Scott, really. I'll be honest, we haven't had conversations yet, but it's on my list of things to do. When the window closes, you know, it gives you time to focus on other things that need to be done. We we just, I suppose, really, you kind of work from the first day. You start from the first day of the next season and kind of work backwards from there. So yeah, we haven't really. I don't think we've got any kind of arrangements in place. There's a couple of non-league clubs, obviously, that we have good relationships with, that we've got historical friendlies against, that we like to play. But I think we're kind of quite flexible. A lot of it would depend on what division we're in as well. You know, if we got promoted, maybe a little pre-season tour, Chairman. So look, yeah. So we'll. There's a lot to think about, but what we do need to do is start planning for it, because likewise, we'd also like to bring someone decent to the county ground, maybe for one game ahead of the start of the season as well. So lots of factors, and there's kind of a commercial element to it as well. So yeah, lots to think about, and then I suppose it's a case of me and Scott sitting down and working out what we're going to want from the players' perspective in terms of how we get their preparation right for the start of the season.
Yeah, from my point of view, I don't like too many games. If I'm honest with you, I've been at clubs before where they've had 7 or 8 games, and I feel it's too many, really. I think 5 and possibly even 6 is more than enough from my point of view. Like Sandro just said, I think that we've got good relationships with certain non-league clubs that we'll always probably do them pre-seasons with. But apart from that, there's no kind of real set way of what we want to do and who we want to play. Really, I think that it's important as well, possibly go into the last week before the season starts, that we play somebody. I think this season was quite good in terms of Cardiff game was one for us to prep good leading into the league fixtures, and I think that's always an important one, that last one. But really speaking, I'm not over bothered in terms of the quality we play or where it is. Sydney would be nice.
Over to you, Mr. Chairman. Right, any more from the floor? Let's back. How is the team performing against the expected data that you came up with? I mean, let's talk about data then, Sandro. I think anybody who's watched Jake Wakeling play will think, boy, that worked, didn't it? So how are they performing in terms of what you thought they might do?
Yeah, that's a good question. How are we performing against expected data? I'd say we're kind of that we're comfortable with at the moment. We're seeing improvements game on game. We're starting to see this kind of upward trajectory in the way our players are performing. The data helps us identify, kind of shortlist and identify players, kind of filter at the early stage. I think a lot of what we do with the data is also looking at kind of the upside in players. So if you looked at the average age of the squad this year, it's significantly lower than it was last year. So that means players have got growth potential in them, which is good, because that means they have good resale value. And I think some players develop at different rates. I think we knew Jacob was a player that we really liked, that we'd identified, that ticks all the boxes for what a Swindon Town footballer looks like. He's probably a little bit ahead of where we thought he was going to be, but I wouldn't say we're all sat there pinching ourselves that we're hugely surprised, because we knew we'd signed an exceptional talent. It just, people develop at different rates, and I think that's the same with all people in different walks of life, isn't it? So some players maybe are a little bit behind where we thought they'd be. I think a lot of the group are probably slightly ahead of where we thought they'd be. I think Tom Clayton's one that's he's played more games and more minutes than we thought he was probably going to do at this stage. But again, Scott and I wouldn't be hugely surprised by that, because we knew we were signing an exceptional player with real pedigree. So we're kind of about on course of where we are, maybe slightly ahead. But I think the important thing is we're seeing good development and players starting to improve game on game.
Yeah, no, I think Sandro's just hit the nail on the head there with everything he's just said. But from a team point of view as well, we've obviously just finished 10 games or 10 league games, and we've just done a review kind of on data as well regarding where we can improve. What can we learn from the 10 games that we've just played? So that's an important meeting that we had this week in terms of that. We look like we've improved game on game for sure. I think everybody in this room would probably agree with that. And hopefully that will continue. There's going to be dips in the road for sure. But we're really pleased with how things have gone, and certainly in terms of the recruitment, we're pretty pleased with it. I think it's clear to see the strength in depth, right? Reedy didn't play Saturday, Johnny Williams didn't play Saturday, yet we still go and churn a performance out like that and win away from home. So we must be doing something right in terms of that. So we're really pleased.
Ellis, you got any more for this Tom Broadbent Lounge?
Yes, one from Steve. Individually to all of the panel, what areas of your job do you think you succeed in, and what areas still need improving?
Gosh, who wants to kick that one? Oh, Rob here.
There's lots of room for improvement, Clem always tells me. No, look, hopefully I try and sort of focus on trying to sort of ensure that we're building to being a sustainable football club, because that's, I think, really important to build the foundations and making sure, that we're building a strong Swindon Town Football Club for the future. Hopefully engaging with you guys, and it helps a bit. I'm trying a bit of an understanding of the area, being obviously a local boy and a fan for many years. But look, there's still loads that we want to do to make improvements to make the club better, and there's lots of areas to make improvements, which is great in one way, because I think we've come a long way from 14 months ago, and the club's in a much stronger position than it was. But there's still loads to do, and we'll continue to grow and get better and stronger.
Who was a manager? There was a manager last season, wasn't there, who was asked about that, and he said the biggest room in his house is the room for improvement. So, I think I'm big on process and structure, and that's like kind of really boring, not sexy stuff, but it's a lot of stuff that kind of I've put in place that felt was important to have in place at the football club. I'd like to say I think recruitment's been quite strong, but I think that's something that you never quite get right. You never completely perfect it, and you're always looking at how you can get better and how you can kind of improve and tweak that. Areas of improvement, probably giving the gaffer more of the things that he asked for, to be honest. No, I was never worried about 6 games. I think if you become a football club that starts measuring success on 6 games, then you've got a much bigger problem, which is ultimately where's your strategy taking you? So, no, absolutely not. I think the most important thing was myself and Clem and Rob getting the strategy right when I joined the football club. If you get that right, that then becomes the kind of Bible that you base it. So as long as the reality is you can play badly and win 4 matches, and you play very well and lose 4 matches, make sure that everything we do is driving towards our strategy on a daily basis, and that's what we're doing, and Scott's doing brilliantly.
I think I really enjoy being on the grass with the players, and preparing the team for a Saturday. I like watching the opposition and really understanding how we can beat them and how we can hurt them and what we need to do, what team I need to pick, and then implementing that on the training ground. I really enjoy that in the mornings, getting on the training ground with the staff, with the coaching team that I've got, and really structuring the day in terms of what they're going to do throughout the day and how they're going to train, what we're going to work on. I find that kind of the best part of my job. I really enjoy that. What do I need to improve on? I've literally probably need to manage my time better. I probably need to be more efficient with how I work. I have days off like everybody does, but I don't choose to use it as a day off. I'll go home and watch Northampton Town for argument's sake. So I think I've had 1 day off since we started, and that was my dad's birthday. I probably need to have them moments where I have to have fun time, and I need to structure myself better. But obviously, with me first coming into the job, I want to succeed, and I'm putting everything into it. So it's just about being more efficient with how I work, I feel.
Thank you. What am I good at? I think I'm good at running the business side of the club, getting the debt down and getting things done. To improve, I think speeches and doing interviews, I think I'm crap at. And playing football on Wednesday night at Foundation Park, I think I could play a lot better.
Actually, Clem, you got your family over with you at the moment. I mean, it must be nice to have your family over. I guess you're going back soon, but how is it when you got the family as well?
It's good that my wife's here, that she's here, but it'd be good if my son was here. Be a lot better, but hopefully he'd be here at Christmas time.
Well, we want you back at Christmas time, I think it's fair to say, don't we? Don't we? Yeah. Trust me. Okay, front row, please. Yeah.
Is there an element in it that you call confidence? Because the one thing I noticed at Grimsby in the first half, the players seemed a lot more confident on the ball. So, like you said, it's probably the best half of football we've played this season. We dominated, but the players were confident with it.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Let me just repeat that question because it's not picked up on the live stream. I think in a nutshell, how much of the data that you pick up is to do with confidence? Is that right? Yeah. There was a team confidence that he hadn't seen before. So there we are. Confidence. How much of a part does that play?
I think it's one of many factors that we look into. Like you've got the kind of the technical data and the technical kind of skills that individuals have. You have their tactical element. Then there's kind of the psychological element, the kind of the softer stuff, as it's called. And that's something that I think we would all agree. I know Scott and I are really big on it. Arguably, it's the most important. That's just more about an individual's personality. Than it does. Now, that's the stuff that's harder to get, and data will only take you so far. So that's kind of your background checks, your due diligence, your character references, finding links to these people in the game, who have they worked with, who have they played with, who did they work under, trawling through their social media, trying to find out as much about that person as you can. And then you try and ensure that you don't bring a bad character into the group. And then I think when you've got good characters and good attitudes and behaviours to work with, then Scott's got a product and a group of people that he can give confidence to.
No, I totally agree. I think as well, like you said, the Doncaster game the week before. Definitely, and I think performances. If the performances are good, the players feel it and they feel confident going into the next game. Of course, results is a big thing. You know, it makes the players buy into what we're doing on the training ground more if the wins are coming thick and fast. And of course, at the start of the season, that wasn't happening. We were drawing a lot of games. Obviously, fans were frustrated. We were frustrated, and then the players. Do they buy into what you're doing? Yeah, because we've picked good individuals to make that team, and they stick to it. Then all of a sudden we start winning games, and they buy into more, and it snowballs, and all of a sudden you've got a real confident team out there. So yeah, definitely.
Well, Ben Gladwin. Let's talk about Ben Gladwin, shall we? I mean, those of us who were at Grimsby on Saturday, I know this is a ridiculous comparison in many ways, but I described this passing on the way back on the bus as Hoddle-esque. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is, yeah. For me, he's been our best player all season. For me, he's come back, I think, 5 kilo, is it, Adam? Is it 5? 5 kilo lighter than he was last season. I've got a really good relationship with Ben as well, which I think kind of helps. Not that he didn't have with Ben, that's not what I'm saying, but certainly we have a good relationship. He understands. He's doing his UEFA B licence coaching badge at the moment as well. So he understands coaching and he understands kind of how we want to play. And it's almost like having a coach on the pitch for me. Because even though how we play is very simple, really, there is certain elements of movement, rotation, distances, spaces. And Ben really gets it. He really understands it. And for me, he's been our best player, like I say. His distances, look at the data on his distance covered in a game, it's better than anybody. Our oldest player. That said, he's really got the bit between his teeth this season. Like Glenn Hoddle.
Maybe it wasn't an outrageous comparison. Anyway, Ellis, have you got any more?
Yeah. One in from Lauren. Following on from the completion of the county ground purchase, where do we stand with stadium development and plans to improve the ground?
Rob, Clem, who wants to take that?
Thanks, Clem. So in terms of stadium development, obviously, as Clem said, we're going to get the exchange and completion done. We'll be looking in the spring about putting plans together, looking at developing the stadium. Plans are, very much around tidying up the Stratton Bank. Obviously, you've got the plans in the Don Rogers, and you've got the second infrastructure in there to put hospitality in that area. Looking at a new town end and potential hotel or convention centre there. So we've got to do research. We've got to make sure those options remain viable. But it's something to sort of move on once we've got that ground purchase done. The aim is to, as I said before, continue to build solid foundations, build a sustainable football club. You've got to look to make sure that we're not just maximising, if you like, the revenue that we can on a match day, but outside of a match day. So we've got to build facilities that people will use in the town of Swindon and businesses will use, for the 330 odd days a year outside of a match day, because that's how you build a strong, sustainable football club.
So I said to you before, some of us are cracking on a bit, so if you could make a move on, that'd be really good. Any more, Ellis?
Yes. Are we likely to be signing Blake Tracy?
Short and sweet.
Very good one. Yeah, Blake Tracy, who's done all right, I think. Who wants to take that?
He has done all right, hasn't he? He's a great lad. Another good character to have around. It's a bit of a funny one because we didn't envisage having 3 left backs at the club, but kind of injuries forced us into that, and we had to make a decision. Les Caffrey, who's our head of recruitment's very, very good, and go and ask him for a left back, and he'll have 10 ready to go. And we've got a good one there. He is on. It's a season-long loan. I believe Fraser is out of contract at the end of the season with Burton anyway. That's one for us to discuss further down the line. So if he carries on performing the way he is, there's probably every chance we'd look to try and bring him to the club permanently. But there's certainly no hurry for that one. The player's got to want to come as well, hasn't he? If we got to that point, he's enjoying his football. He was very keen to come to us, to join us and get out of Burton and just play games, and he's doing that. He's enjoying his football. The lads love him, so everything's looking good. Who knows how that looks by the time we get to April or May?
Yeah, I'd take him in a heartbeat. He's really low maintenance, manager's dream. He's almost like a robot. You tell him what to do, he'll just go out and do it, and does it brilliantly. So yeah, I'd take him in a heartbeat. I think he's been probably our most consistent player. Attacks the ball well on corners. He'll get his head on. He's aggressive. You saw him crash into some brilliant tackles on Saturday at Grimsby, the dugout side of the pitch. But yeah, take him in a heartbeat. He's a great player.
Sort of following on from that, will Wakeling be getting a new contract after the start to the season?
He started the season brilliantly, hasn't he? Like I said, probably slightly ahead of where we thought he was going to be. He's got huge potential. He personifies what myself and Scott and Clem and Rob believe a Swindon Town footballer should be like. I'm sure he personifies what all of you lot think a Swindon Town footballer should be like. There might be a new deal soon. We've just got to weigh it up and have a look at the finances, and maybe I'll have a chat with Clem again before he heads back to Australia. And so yeah, just we'll see what happens. Watch his space.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, he's had a fantastic start, hasn't he? He's been unbelievable. He just works so hard, doesn't he? He never stops running. His data's through the roof. and he can finish. You know, he's got goals in him, and he'll continue that. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be something sorted out soon. He's been outstanding for us.
Blake Tracy, Jay McEverley. Is it the same person? Those of us who are long enough to remember, we might remember it is the same person. Any more from the floor? Yes, Mitch. So if I might paraphrase it, have you had a disagreement about possible signings, data, etc.? Gut feeling versus data. Is it a fight, or do you get on?
I think from my point of view, I've got an experience, what I call a coach's eye, and I think, you know, nothing beats that. Obviously, the data can back stuff up, and no is the answer to your question. We've not disagreed on anything really, you know, but there has been kind of times when I've looked at expected goals is a big. I'm going away from probably recruitment a little bit, but expected goals is a big kind of angle for me. You know, I don't know if you understand what I mean by XG. So expected goals. There was a moment where we could have scored, Matty Bowdry could have scored from an header against Harrogate. Open goal, pretty much, header. He headed it wide, and it went down as a very low expected goal. And because he didn't get it on target, but it was an open goal. So there's certain things that I'm not really for in terms of the data, little things like that. But there's certain, in terms of recruitment, there's so much that you need to look into and read for me to understand before I run my eye over the player. Then I think, like I say, the coach's eye, you can't beat that. But no, we've never had a kind of moment where we've disagreed, have we? I don't think we have. If we have, I can't remember it.
No, look, we haven't. I think it's a good question, and that doesn't mean to say at some point, you know, you're going to get friction in, because it's something that we believe strongly in, but we haven't had any of those moments. I think the reason why we haven't had any of those moments is it comes down to having a really strong, clear philosophy on how we want the football club to play, which then means you have a very clear recruitment strategy. So we might look, for example, there definitely would have been left backs that have come up really strong on the data, that have gone into the group, and Scott's looked at him and gone, I don't like this and I don't like that. Fine, we move on to the next one. But we know what a Swindon Town left back looks like, or a centre midfielder. So I think if your recruitment strategy is really strong, we know what we're looking for. We're in complete agreement what we're looking for. Then it just comes down to, of the ones that we find in that position, which are the ones that we think are the best. So what you're never going to get at this football club is you're not going to have one person saying we want a 22-year-old centre forward who's really quick, and someone else saying, oh, we want a 34-year-old lump who can head it, you know, because that isn't how the football club is structured, and that isn't what our philosophy is like. And that ultimately is why we haven't had any disagreements on recruitment.
Okay, any more from Mr. Tom Broadbent Lounge?
Yes. Scott, what are your thoughts on the fans this season?
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Listen, I understand frustrations. I'm a fan myself, you know, and I understand it. Listen, the first game doesn't count because it was actually in July, so we'll put that down as a pre-season. So we had a lot of recruitment, obviously, a lot of young players coming in. So in effect, it's a new team, right? And it will take time, you know, and I think we're starting to see the fruits of the work that we're putting in now. And listen, there's going to be dips along the way for sure. And I understand, I really do understand frustrations. The pleasing thing for me on Saturday was the players really put their bodies on the line to get that result. and rightly so as well, because you fans travel a long way to go and watch that game and pay your money, and it's pleasing as supporters to see the players putting that effort in, and that's the biggest thing for me. I'll be gutted if we ever come away from a game and I think the players didn't put it in, because that's not right, and I don't think, in fact, I'm pretty sure you'll never see that with me as the head coach here, because I will demand that they work and they do put their bodies on the line, and I do understand frustrations. I do get it, but listen, I'm 100% with you guys. I'm Swindon through and through, and I want to win just as much as you do. So I do get it.
Sort of following on from that as well, have you heard your new song?
I've been singing it all weekend.
It's great. I can tell you that I did a bit of the South West Coast Path on Monday. There's some very difficult steps to get up. I was singing it all the way up, so it got me through some difficult moments. Anybody from the floor? Yeah. Oh gosh. Wow. Okay. Yes, sir. Are Wakelin and Tracy attracting attention from bigger clubs? Now, how does this work? Because obviously Blake Tracy's on loan. Sorry? Oh, Clayton. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. So I'm Clayton. People like that, are they attracting interest?
I believe there's a little bit of interest. I think naturally when young footballers, clubs are aware of these footballers before they sign for Swindon Town. So, there is interest, probably the wrong word. Scouts come and watch them. Scouts come and watch our players. I think we're a club, because of the way that we play and have played historically, we naturally appeal to certain clubs. Certain clubs will come and look at Swindon Town players because they know they're good technicians. They know they're very comfortable in possession. So we do get scouts come and watch. Wakelin and Tom Clayton would be the two obvious ones at the moment. I expect there to be plenty more scouts coming to watch our players this season. I think that's something that we're just going to have to accept. And ultimately, when scouts stop coming to watch our players, then we really want to be worried.
So, right, here's one for Scott. And this is from the floor. Can you explain why there's 4 coaches in the area directing instructions to the team on the pitch? And, round of applause.
I don't know. None of them know what they're talking about. No, to be honest with you, so Jamie Day, my assistant, who's the smaller chap with the longer hair. Yeah, Ronan Darcy's dad. He's very calm. Doesn't say a great deal. Sits and really studies what the opposition shape is. So 3-1, 4-3-3, whatever it may be. And he'll come up to me about 5 minutes and he'll explain what he thinks they're doing and where they might be spaces. Of course, we've worked on the opposition leading up to the game, so we may have done something different, which a lot of teams have set up differently to us because of the way we play. So, we may analyse a team leading into a Saturday game, but then when we turn up on Saturday, they've changed completely different shape because of the way we play. So we've got to be ready for that. So Jamie kind of analyses that very early on in the game and looks for spaces. Gav Gunning, my second assistant manager, who's very, very aggressive, very boisterous, but kind of in a smart way, where he will look after the back end of the team, whether it's a back 3 or back 4, and the deep midfield players, and he'll make sure our defensive line is always up where it should be. So, for argument's sake, when the ball goes 20 yards that way, I want my line up. I want us to defend high up the pitch and be aggressive, and he'll kind of monitor that quite loudly, which I think needs to be loud. I think it needs to be that way. And then you've Wildy, the goalkeeper coach, who basically looks after all their pieces. So he'll sit down and say nothing until all of a sudden there's a corner and you'll see him come to life. Apart from that, he just sits there and watches the game, and then he'll come to life again when there's a free kick. And then obviously myself, I'm at the front and kind of watching all of it. So yeah, that's really the structure of how we work.
There we are. Yeah, another round of applause. Why not? Yeah. Right, we'll take one more before we go into the added time of 7 minutes and 54 seconds. Alice, you got one more?
Yeah, one in from Claire. Where are we with the goalkeeper situation and the backup keeper, and what a fine soul is? Hopefully we keep him beyond January and he isn't recalled.
He's listening.
Sol is listening in.
Sol's listening.
Hi, Sol. Sol's on loan for the season. There is a recall clause in there. Every club has it, but I hope, and I'm not a religious man. Yeah, I hope and pray that no, Sol doesn't get recalled. So that's the situation with Sol. With regards the number 2 goalkeeper, this is a question I've been asked quite a few times by quite a few different people. We want to there's a financial kind of, it can become a financial burden where you have a number 2 keeper that you pay quite a bit of money for, that sits on your bench, that you're not actually that confident in, and we're very clear and specific on the way we play. So that means we need to have a certain type of keeper that ideally is very good with their feet. The reality is we couldn't really find the exact one that we wanted to play the way that we did, or play the way that we do rather. So what we didn't want to do was pay someone a chunk of money to sit on the bench who probably wasn't going to be right for exactly what we wanted. So that's kind of where we are. That doesn't mean to say that person isn't out there, but it's just trying to find one that then also fits in the budget.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've reached half time. So if you want to take a break and refresh your glasses, etc. But for the moment, please, would you put your hands together for Clem Morfuni, Scott Lindsay, Sandra McKaylee, and Rob Angus.
Bear with us, guys. Still a bit of a refreshment break. Stick around. We'll be back soon. Speak soon. So, guys, we're going to have a bit of a half-time chat. We decided we just sat in silence, not saying anything, and it felt a bit awkward. So, Ellis, mate, you've been our spokesperson.
Yeah.
How you find it? Enjoying yourself?
Yeah, it's all right. Not too bad. Getting involved with it all.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, they seem quite talkative,
Yeah.
quite open.
Yeah.
Really open to questions. We've not been told tonight that we can't ask anything.
No.
Also, we have had a few questions come in that probably won't be asking just because of maybe legal issues or specifics we won't get into. So I don't think we're ignoring you because we don't want to read your question out. It's just we've got some things we can't say.
Still send any questions in that you get. I'll try to ask them when I get an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, rampant with questions.
Yeah.
You're firing them through.
Yeah.
Firing them through. To be fair, we've covered quite a few topics, haven't we?
Yeah.
Sustainability in terms of cost of living,
The ground itself.
the ground purchase. Yeah. So I mean, the ground purchase for anyone who didn't hear, the deposit for the club for the club buying the ground will go in on January the 31st. So that's essentially pretty much all done and dusted. Once the club has purchased the ground, it'll be then looking at redevelopments, new town end, hotel going in. Obviously, we've got the John Trollope statues. We've got the Don Rogers statue as well going Hospitality, yeah. Hello, Pete. Do we come on to the Stomp Broadbent Lounge? You can't plan our football tournaments and then not come on our shows. That's not... he's shying away. So yeah, I mean, what's been your main takeaway from that first half, Ellis?
Just how lovely they all are.
Yeah. I mean, Scott Lindsay's a likeable bloke, isn't he?
Yeah, he come in with a massive smile on his face. Yeah, he loves it.
Here's Martin with his big sausage roll in hand.
Not the first time you said that to me, Joe.
Let's keep it PG. It's not quite 9 o'clock just yet. Enjoyed that? You're a bit late, but you...
Apologies for being late. No, it was really good. Scott answered the question what he thought of the fans. It was very...
Handled it well, didn't it?
Yeah, it was very honest, I thought. Speaks really well. The more I hear him speak, the more I warm to him. It's like, not just as a manager, but as a human being. He just seems like such a nice bloke.
Mate, the biggest thing for Scott Lindsay to me, he clearly loves the football club.
Yeah.
He bleeds Swindon Town.
Yeah.
I was going to say he bleeds red, but we all do. But he clearly loves being here, and there's nothing more than he wants to do than to succeed.
Yeah, exactly that.
With a Swindon Town club badge on his chest.
And for him, because he's so likeable as a human being, it makes you want him to succeed even more.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that things have started to turn around and everyone's starting to really want to him.
I mean, you weren't here, but Ellis mentioned when he came in, they introduced them all separately. And you guys on the show, you'd have heard the clap for Scott Lindsay.
Really?
His face, he was beaming.
Oh, amazing.
He looked like a kid in the toy shop, bless him.
That's so nice to hear.
Yeah, I mean, the other guys as well. I think Rob spoke really well in terms of the ground purchase and the general sort of the background bits that we don't really get to see on a day-to-day basis. Clem's just looked happy to be here.
Yeah, and Sandro's being as open as he can be. Obviously, there's certain things that you can't talk about, but you know, everything that's being asked, they're sort of trying to answer as best as they can.
I think the main thing with Sandro is his face when squirming about loan questions. Blake Tracy and Sol Brim being the two that we both want. Well, I say both of us here, all of us here. Everyone with a Swindon Town persuasion would sort of, you know, run through brick walls to have Sol and Fraser stay around here. Sol's listening, so Sol, get the phone to your agent, mate, and just tell him what you want, tell him what you need.
What else? What else we spoke about? Just trying to recall what I was talking about.
I mean, we've been round in sort of circles. There was a question about the confidence of the boys and whether or not Sandro takes in the confidence of a footballer when signing him. I don't think you can take that into account, can you? I mean, confidence breeds from winning games.
Yeah.
If you're a footballer, you're winning games, you're really confident, aren't you? So,
I guess the only thing is to look at how they react to when they're losing. If they're a goal or two down, do their heads just drop? And do they care?
Yeah.
Or do they really still have it in their mind, like, no, we can get this back? And you have that determination to try and get something out of the game still. So I guess they can measure it on that. But you're right, confidence does happen from winning games, getting good results.
I think the character that the gentleman in the crowd, when he asked the question, he was speaking about the character that the boys showed at Grimsby. Obviously going down to 10 men, sort of asses against the wall, just, you know, battering ram situation. We handled it really well. I think that's something that we've seen over the last few weeks. We mentioned before the game to me, Alice, but the Sutton game with the boys doing the huddle on the pitch after the game.
Yeah.
It clearly is a great togetherness within the squad.
Just the whole squad as a whole, just like they all just look like they want to win, and when they do win, they celebrate together. And we saw that after games.
So Jason has just left a tweet here for us to say, ask Clem and Rob if we can keep the 3 p.m. kickoffs. No early kickoffs on a Saturday. Now, I think if you hadn't listened to if you missed the question earlier in the show,
actually the first question, so you would have missed that one.
Yeah. So, Ellis, what did Robert and Sandro and Glenn say?
Essentially, they said they don't want the earlier kickoffs and they want to keep the 3 p.m. kickoffs. So regarding that, they can only go ahead as of now if both clubs agree to it. So if one, say Swindon, don't agree to it, then 3 p.m. kickoff will still go ahead.
Yeah, I think they mentioned Mansfield, didn't they? Because Mansfield have come out publicly and said that they will be asking every league fixture to be played at 1 p.m. Rob mentioned that if we were to agree to play at 1 p.m, he didn't rule it out, but he mentioned if we agreed to play at 1 p.m, the logistical issue of getting the team to the ground would change. So 3 p.m. kickoff, you'd be looking at day travel, the boys getting to the county ground in the morning on a coach and getting to the ground on the day and coming back on the day. If it's a 1 p.m. kickoff, you're probably looking at having to fork out for a hotel, travel up the day before and then back again, so it's added cost to the football club. But yes, I think the panel sort of unanimously were against 1 p.m. kickoffs. Scott and Clem especially were of the persuasion of 3 p.m. Saturday is a holy time for football fans.
Yeah. Clem had a very blunt no to that, but the whole idea of a 1 p.m. kickoff is to save money and costs, sort of with the floodlights and whatnot. But as Rob was saying, the whole logistical side of it, if you look at it, it probably ends up costing the club more as an away team. Like Joe said, with having to stay over, and also with the players with their day routines. They're getting up earlier. Their pre-match meal would be breakfast, and it
in pasta at 10:30 in the morning.
It throws everything out, doesn't it? So it's not as easy as just moving it forward. There's lots of issues around it as well.
I think I remember a Wayne Rooney interview where Rooney said that he hated the Saturday or Sunday 12 o'clock kickoffs because, as I mentioned earlier on, you're cramming pasta at 9:30 in the morning.
Also, with our winters, they're so bleak and they're just always bucketing down with rain. The floodlights are on anyway, so I don't.
Yeah.
Unless I'm missing something obvious, I don't understand
You've always
what
got
a difference that will make.
7 o'clock kickoffs or 7:45 kickoffs for Tuesday as well, which you can't change.
They're going to bring
it
that
to
to
fixture list, aren't you?
2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon as well, are they? It makes just doesn't make a whole big deal of sense to me.
And Rob said as well, with people not being able to make games, that loses out on ticket revenue as well. So that's another issue adding to that as well. So I think just as a collective, the whole room seems like they're against an earlier kickoff.
Yeah, well, there was an applause, wasn't there?
Yeah.
After we got told categorically no, that we don't like them. So yeah, I think a lot of fans would be pleased to hear that. Actually, as I say, especially the players travel, the players experience the day. It's also harder for fans to get here that early. Changes planned, especially with trains at the minute as well. Trains will be awful in the morning.
Coming down from Carlisle for a 1 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, well, Vic comes up from Devon, doesn't he? Yeah. So he's got a fairly decent drive. I mean, myself, I drive hour and a half, hour and 40. We've got our Lord and Saviour, Mr. Hammerhand, listening in, who I know drives miles and miles to get here every Saturday. You don't want to be leaving at 9:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning for him. So yeah, I think we'll all be pleased to hear that it's been delayed or it's been pushed away, the 1 p.m. kickoff from ourselves. Just looking at our listeners list here, we've got a Mr. Saidu Khan listening. Saidu, we love you, but you did sign our flag wrong. So, but other than that, we'll forgive you for that. The performances on the pitch are the main thing.
What else is covered? Sort of Sandro talking about players and their contracts, Wakelin and loan players such as Bryn and Blake Tracy.
Did you see Sandro's face when asked about the replacement goalkeeper or the backup goalkeeper?
Yeah.
He had a massive eye roll.
Yeah.
And the question was asked. He was like, "Oh God!" So
get asked it all the time.
I think something's happened recently as well, where maybe we've been close to someone and someone's dropped off. Because he didn't. His face was quite funny.
I think we can all safely say as well we're very happy with Mr. Bryn, Mr. Sol Bryn in goal.
He's listening as well. There's some bootlicking here.
Is anyone going to sing the song?
Not me.
Go on then.
I'm a soul man.
I Oh, that's the Hannahs, that is.
Yeah.
Can we also please keep having all the questions coming in? Please send them all in now. We've had one or two more come in. If we can get some more, we can start to screenshot them, get them in our chat ready for as soon as when they come back out.
That one from SM1 Insider will just be available to listen back to afterwards. It will be. It's a recorded space. So jump on our Twitter page after the show's ended. It should be there for you very quickly. It'll stick around for a while as well. I think it's a month that they stay around for. Or 30 days. So yeah, listen back at your own leisure.
Also, if any questions don't get asked, it will probably be they've already been asked earlier on, or we can't ask them.
Yeah. So we'll get some minutes written up as well from the show and posted on our socials. Check out our Instagram story. I'll pop some bits in there for you guys afterwards as well. Any more questions, Martin?
Not so much yet. We just need a few more to come in. Just when Vic comes over to us. I've screenshotted one to ask, but I'm not going to reveal what question that is just yet.
Okay.
Won't spoil the surprise. That's for Ellis.
Reminder with the questions as well. Obviously, we're getting loads of questions. We've had loads of questions before as well. We have got a Dan Designs competition on at the moment. So anyone that's asked the question, whether it's asked to the panel or not, we'll get them into a draw this evening for a Super Scott Lindsay print and a Clem Morfooni print as well, courtesy of our sponsor Dan Designs. The winners will be announced this evening, and I'll get into contact with you guys for your addresses, your details, and we'll send it out to you.
Fire the questions in.
Yeah, we've got a requested here actually. Should we add Dave on?
Let's
see what Dave has got to say.
You boys taking over from Hannah's, then, eh?
Come on then, Dave. Dave, you're live.
Yeah. Can you ask Vic Morgan if he can sort of just summarise some of the questions, because we can't always hear, or can't hear 90% of them on the chat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've had a few texts about that, Dave. So I'm trying to get Vic to sort of paraphrase the questions afterwards. Obviously, it's difficult if we get Ellis wandering around the Legends Lounge with the microphone. He runs under speakers, and that's when you get the nasty feedback. So yeah, I'll have a chat with Vic before we start the second half, and I'll get him to paraphrase or sort of re-ask the question to the panel for you guys.
Cheers, thanks.
Okay, cheers, Dave. Is that all?
Yeah, all good. Cheers.
All good. Good, lovely stuff. Ellis, back to you, mate. So just have one there about Vic sort of rephrasing the questions and stuff, or repeating the questions, because the listeners can't hear it. Hopefully, the latter part of that show, fingers crossed, is a bit better for you guys.
There was a question early on that got a big laugh about McCurdy and sort of undisclosed fees that you probably missed. But that question was basically asking why are there undisclosed fees going about now, and how much did we get for Harry McCurdy? To which the answer was it was undisclosed. Keep those questions coming in on Twitter. Let me see. We spoke a little bit about the women's football, sort of regarding them partnering with the club now and sort of becoming Swindon and not Swindon Women's, and also sort of playing at the ground. Rob said about they've got a few games coming up at the county ground, and they're looking at getting some games at Foundation Park as well, which will be good. So that what else did we? One from Philip. Are the questions being vetted in the room?
The answer is no. Like, we are ones that come into us, we are kind of vetting them of what can and can't be asked. Anything legal, obviously, we can't just pull up and ask if there's a court case involved. But when it comes to Vic asking the floor, there is absolutely no betting. No one knows what's going to be said. They just hand the mic and they just start speaking. And Hannah's is requested to speak.
Hannah's, he's requested. Let's get him in. Hello, Hannah's.
Hello, how are we?
I'm good.
Yeah, very well. I've got a question for you.
good. Let's go ahead.
Obviously, I appreciate you won't be able to screen grab this, but can you ask the panel whether there would be a logical plan for them to run double headers with the women's team and the men's team to maximise on crowd access and people viewing the matches?
Of course. Great question as well.
I'll write that down.
Thank you very much.
It's great to hear your voice again, Hannah.
I've missed that beautiful voice of yours, Hannah.
Oh, you beautiful boys. My beautiful, beautiful boys.
You enjoying the show, Hannah?
Yeah, it's very good. Very good. All you need is a really, really sleazy Cockney host. And if you could maybe like slot a bit of Cockney into what you're saying, I think it's the complete package.
Okay, I'll try that.
Have a good night.
Yeah, and you. Thank you. That was Hannah's, everyone. Where were we? We had a question asking about the panel in what they think they succeeded in their job and what they need improving in. Mr. Scott Lindsay said he needs to improve on his timekeeping skills, because he said he's only had one day off. He's had one day off since he took the job, and that was his daughter's birthday. So the man is working very hard, as you can tell, and it's all starting to pay off now. What else have we got? You got any more questions in?
We are getting a few more in.
Hello.
But we'll wait for them to come back and we'll ask them, because there's some questions that we can't ask ourselves. There are some really good questions coming in.
Yeah. Keep them coming in. Keep the questions coming in, guys, on Twitter. Tweet them in. DM them to us. What else have we? So it shouldn't be too long, and the Q&A will start up again. Let's check the questions in on Twitter.
Two posts to make it work. And then basically there's a bit that goes on top of the door.
So one in from Steve on Twitter. Can you ask, last year we had some really big characters and it seemed a big group of mates just playing football together. Is that seeing camaraderie growing this season? And who's picking the tunes in the changing room? That's a good question. Obviously, I presume that's referencing Harry McCurdy, big character. Yeah, we spoke to Scott about the fans as well, and his views on the fans and what he thinks. I also asked about his song, which he said he's been singing the past couple of days.
I know he kind of made it sound like he was joking, but I really want to believe he has been.
Yeah, I think he has been.
I want to picture him walking around his house just singing.
Yeah, in the shower,
driving into training.
Yeah, blasting it out. Getting a load of questions coming in now, guys.
Yeah, thank you for sending them in. Please keep them coming. Apparently, I have not seen the tweet to confirm this, but apparently Saidu Khan has agreed to re-sign the flag. So, Saidu, if you're still listening and that is true, please confirm it. Even request to speak, and you can tell everyone listening in that you will replace your signature on that flag with the correct number.
Can't believe that. Mr. Jake Wakelin is listening in.
I've just been sent picture evidence. He has tweeted this.
Yeah. Sadio Khan, I'll re-sign the flag in on Twitter. So you've heard it here. He will be re-signing the flag.
If you could please still come on and just explain why you signed it with your previous squad number, it'd be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, very busy here in the Legends Lounge. Packed out. Some good questions being asked around the room.
There's a very good question coming from Rachel, which I hope we get to ask. It's about when the World Cup's happening and everyone is going to be not going to Premier League games or Champions games. I don't know, Championships. Championship. Yeah. Are they going to do more to encourage people to attend Swindon Town?
Ladies and gentlemen, your 5-minute warning. Your 5-minute warning.
5 minutes, guys.
So hopefully we get to ask that question because that is a very good point. It seems like a really good chance to try and get newer fans in who wouldn't normally watch League 2 football, wouldn't normally come to Swindon, to get away from their skybox. Stop watching Premier League on TV. And become watching live football.
I think naturally as well, you will see more people come in, like you said, with people not watching Premier League games,
especially families.
Yeah, definitely.
Bring kids down, isn't it?
Yeah. Get them busy. Yeah, 5 minutes until the Q&A starts up again, guys. Essentially 8:30. Got anything to say, Joe?
No. No, I'm just really enjoying this.
It's really good.
Everyone's in the room, everyone's in here. It's really positive. Everyone's enjoying themselves. Getting a lot of good feedback as well online. So hopefully it's right for you guys. I'm hoping the feedback from the speakers isn't too bad. You can hear clearly. As Dave came on the show about 10 minutes ago, with the questions now, we're going to be handing around our microphone during the second half. So a member of the OSC will take the microphone off Ellis. They'll carry it around, so you'll be able to hear in real time the questions, and then also we'll get the microphone back for our questions. So but it should be better listening second half.
Joe, you missed Hannah's coming on.
I missed Hannah's coming on?
Yeah, he come on for a little chat, asked the question.
What was his question? Was it to do with Soul Man, by a chance?
No, it was not. It was to do with women's football.
Okay.
I've got it here written down. Let me get it up. Will they be running double headers of the women's team after the men's game to maximise crowd size / interest? And I think that's a very good point as well, because I think that's probably one of the reasons why people don't go to watch it as much, maybe.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could take your seats again, please.
We're back on, guys.
Much.
On women's football, obviously we've got Helena Diaz-Butcher and Annie Coulson, the Tom Broadbent Lounge official athletes. Just ballers, really. Just a little plug. Just cheeky little plug for them. So if you can get down to the games at the county ground, please do, because I'm sure it'll be worth it. Anyway, we're going to take our seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Swindon Town's Chief Executive, Rob Angus. Our Technical Director, Sandro Di Michele. Our Head Coach, Scott Lindsay. And our Chairman and Owner, Mr. Clem Morfuni. Right, got loads. I tell you what, I got loads more questions given to me in the interval. So there we are. You're all right till midnight. That's fine. Just a quickie, and it's just been asked to me. Somebody wants to design fabric, right? And they want to use the Swindon Town badge. So who do they need to get permission? They're not going to sell it. They're just going to use it on the fabric, right? And this is a serious question. So who do they get in touch with to get permission?
Yeah, you just get in touch with me. It's Rob at swindontownfc.co.uk, and we can have a look and sort that out.
Don't know if you heard that money. But seriously, how difficult is that to do, to use the badge, as it were?
We've got copyright over the badge for obvious reasons, commercial reasons, as Clem just mentioned. But look, we can look at that and review it, on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, lovely. Right, I'm just going to pick one off here because there's loads. Right, plans to upgrade the disabled facilities at 1879 Street, Townend. This is from Sean. Disabled facilities along every football club, and I'm not just talking about Swindon Town, but they're not very good. So, what are the plans to upgrade the disabled facilities here?
We're looking at it with the supporters club. So Chris and Hannah and others have come and we're looking at it. But we've got to also recognise that we want to do the development. So you don't want to spend a load of money when you're then going to do the development and do that work anyway. It's going to be a lot easier on the Don Rogers side when we look at the work we do over there in terms of hospitality, because there's a lift shaft already in the infrastructure. It's quite difficult on this side, just the age of the building hasn't been set up on that sort of basis. But it is something we're looking at, but we've got to balance it up with the cost of it and how long it will be before we develop various parts of the stadium. But we will do whatever we can, and I think we have made some improvements. Caroline Lane, who's our disabled supporters officer, I think does a great job reaching out to the disabled supporters club and broader disabled supporters to try and make the match day as much as possible. But the infrastructure of the club doesn't make it easy in certain parts.
Are there regulations? Do the Football League set down regulations that you have to come up with? How does that work?
Yeah, there are some regulations. I don't think they're overly onerous, and obviously there's regulations in you as a business, but it depends often on the age of the structure, and when it's built. So if you were building, a stand now, then obviously the regulations are much higher than ones that were built, obviously, like this one, over 50 years ago now. So that's what you've got to sort of balance through. But there are some regulations that we need to comply with, which we do, and we'll do what we can. But there are limits, and we've got to balance, as I say, the cost against the plans to develop. Because you don't want to do something and then you'll have to rip it down and replace it with a development.
Okay, fair enough. Just a reminder that this is being broadcast by Tom Broadbent. For the best question they think that come in from there, you will get a couple of prints signed by Dan Designs, who's been one of the great introductions to Swindon Town over the last couple of seasons. So if you want to win one of those are the questions that they'll be looking at. Right, this is regarding Sol Bryn, and I before we go on with this, several of the players are listening tonight. So do you want to give the players a round of applause? Come on. Sol Bryn, this is for you, Sandro. Awesome signing. What is the contingency plan if he gets injured? Does Brandt come in, or are you consistently looking for goalies for emergency deal? What is the likelihood of signing him? I guess the better he plays, does that diminish?
Yeah, look, I think it's a big ask for Sol Bryn to be a permanent Swindon Town player. In reality, there's nothing Scott and myself would love more than that. But the reality is, he's a very good, very talented young goalkeeper. He went out on loan last season in the South Middlesbrough, and now League Two is the next stage of his career. Chances are, the reality is, he was going to go to a League One club, but we've got good relationships with clubs, and we managed to sort of lean on them a little bit, I suppose. But who knows how it will play out? But I think it's probably. Sol's destined for an incredibly good career at probably the highest level, in all honesty, if he carries on in the way he's going at the moment. So if he gets injured, then we go into the emergency loans market. I would expect, that'd probably be the port of call. That was kind of the educated decision that we made at the time, as opposed to going and getting that number 2 that we felt probably wouldn't be a good use of finances.
Scott, there was a lovely moment on Saturday when you brought him over to the away fans. Everybody was there. And again, I'll say it's very frustrating because we didn't know what the heck was going on. It was just madness at the other end. But it was like ping pong. You're obviously very proud of his performance. You saw more than we did, quite frankly. What made it so good?
Just obviously the pressure we were put under towards the end of the game, and he just did his job, and he did it brilliantly. It was some of them, a couple of the saves were world class. They really was, and I know we got one cleared off the line as well. Romeo Hutton cleared one off the line as well. So it was backs against the wall, and he had a calm head and did his job properly, and he's been outstanding, and he come under a bit of criticism early on in the season, in the first home game, which we couldn't understand really. You know, with these young lads are trying to make their way in the game, and he come under a bit of criticism. And I don't know if you remember the game, but he was man of the match that game as well, and rightly so. He's gone on and done brilliant for us, and like Sandro just said, he's going to have a massive future at the high end of the game for sure.
Right, this is from Tom. In 5 years' time, what does success look like behind the scenes off the pitch? For example, staffing structure, stadium, season ticket sales, revenue, commercial offerings. I guess the question, Clem, is where do you see the club in 5 years?
Where do I see the club in 5 years? Look, obviously we want to buy the ground. We want to develop all the stadium, have a training pitch that is ours, and obviously go up in the leagues. Obviously, I want to go to the Premier League. That's my ultimate goal. But if we don't build the foundations properly, we're never going to get there. So we need to make sure that our foundations are right and our infrastructure is right. And we can't build a sustainable club without the right foundations. That's my goal.
So then, Rob, let's ask you about debt then. Where are we at with debt, things you have to pay off, that kind of thing? What can you tell us?
Well, we're in a much stronger position than we were, 14 months ago. A big thanks, obviously, to Clem, but all of you guys as well, of all the support with season tickets, going on match days, buying shirts and stuff like that. We're now in a position where the historic debt is down to around about 1 million. And you've got to remember that the 500,000 or so of that, probably a bit more, is to the EFL on an interest-free loan as well. And then you've got a contested amount included in that with Centre Plate, the former caterers, where obviously we're arguing the amount that's due. So we're in a really much stronger position, than we were 14 months ago, where the club obviously was, not far from, I think, going out of business. So. And as I say, I mean, it will just get stronger and better from here, I think, with your support, coming through with obviously Clem's support and injection and us trying to run it on a sustainable basis. Every pound that you spend here, whether that's in the kiosk, whether that's buying shirts, match days, that comes back into the club and gets reinvested back in. And keep up my job and Greg Norman, our finance director over there, who give a wave, is to make sure that, the finances are strong, and as Clem says, we're building those strong foundations for the future.
How concerned are you? We touched on the cost of living, etc. How concerned are you about attendances this season? Because, times is hard and going to get harder. How concerned are you and getting people through the gate when things start to really bite?
Yeah, look, it is concerning, and we recognise that, and obviously, the rising energy costs and etc. And inflation hits the club as well. So our bills go up at the same sort of rate. So hopefully people, will look forward to their game of football, still comes in their numbers that we have done and support the club. But I think it's a concern for all of us. We're trying to make sure that we, as I say, manage the cost base as best we can. Look for ways that we can, drive up by attracting new partners, sponsors, and I'm sure that you guys have a great time when you come down to football, but we hope the crowd stay up, because I know the people of Swindon and surrounding areas love their football. They love their football club, and it's coming here and meeting friends that you might not see outside of the game for the couple of times a month you've got a home game. So hopefully they stay, but it is something that we need to be aware of and concerned about.
Okay, I think Anna, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to the previous question that you answered around where do you see us as a club in 5 years' time. So in the respect of infrastructure, if you lay aside the ground purchase and so on, what is missing from the infrastructure today that needs to be in place for that growth upwards to happen?
I think I'll ask. Obviously, the purchase of the ground is so important for us, and we need to make revenue off the pitch so we can put back into the pitch. So the more money we make off the pitch, we can put more into the infrastructure that we need. Obviously, we're going to bring more staff. If we get up in the leagues, we're going to get players, but obviously the infrastructure, which we're trying to do. I'm talking about the property, the actual stadium, and the infrastructure and the personnel that we've got.
Any more from the floor? Tim, can we make our way? We're trying to get the microphones to you so that the Tom Broadbent Lounge people can pick up the question. How many season tickets have we now sold? 6,000 to Australia, I think, was the actual target. How many?
So we're at 5,100. So if you haven't bought one, you still got time to, and you might get a lucky trip to Australia with Clem and with Dee as well, with the background there. And we're going to keep that competition open because in the next month or so, we'll come out with half-season tickets and match-day bundle options and stuff like that, as we've done before, which hopefully be good Christmas presents for people. That's true. We'll look at that, Pete.
Right. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Where are we with the statues? Don Rogers, John Trotter.
It's something we've discussed at the advisory board. It's something obviously the supporters trust are running with. I think they've got some designs on Don as being the first one. I think they're waiting for the next little version, if you like, the test version before sort of working that through. But it's progressing well. We'll get another update in the next advisory board meeting, which is next week.
Okay. This is, I've got a name on this, but due to the FA charge still hanging over the club, will it be dealt with this season? And if we get a bad result of points deduction, have you made any preparation for this? Clem, do you want to take this?
We won't get any points deduction, that's for sure. We'll probably get a fine, which we're trying to sort out. We'll probably get, I think, adjourned till after Christmas.
Okay, short and sweet. Right, anybody else got any more?
Yeah, I guess my question is for Scott. How much is the change in substitutions using five available? How much like disruption or advantage do you think that has given you, or headache has it given you?
I think we can certainly use it as a positive more than a negative. You know, we can make changes. Obviously, we have to do it at 3 moments, so 5 go on in 3 moments. But we have to look at that as a way of getting more energy on the pitch more than anything, tactically as well, obviously. But certainly, the more energy, you know, almost like make 5 changes and really finish the game strongly is kind of the way forward. But I feel as if at the moment with how the game's panned out, I feel as if I haven't had to do that. But it certainly gives us an option to do that in order for us to get more energy on the pitch late, especially later on in the games. But yeah, I see it as a real positive. I don't think it destructs us at all. I think it's a positive.
Okay, got another one for you here. Last season we lost too many at home. Here we are in October, 2 wins, 2 draws. What's changed about the home form?
I think it's hard to measure that, if I'm honest with you, because we're different. You know, we're a different team now. The way we train is slightly different. The way we prepare for the game is slightly different. You know, I know there was a period of time when we had the players in at 11 o'clock for a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday for pre-match and meetings. And come 3 o'clock, you know, you can imagine what the players were like, you know. So I've not gone down that road this season. I've felt that I can trust the players to eat the right foods at home, and trusting them to do that, and I know they will. And they come in later. 1:15 is the meet time for them to come in for a 3 o'clock kickoff. And I feel as if the structure is really simple. They come in, we have a meeting in the dressing rooms where we go through elements of the opposition we're going to play against and certain things that we've worked on, kind of reinforcing what we've worked on. And it's really simple. And maybe that's got something to do with it, the fact that we've not kind of gone overboard and brought them in hours and hours and hours before the game. Maybe that, I don't know. I think it's a difficult one to measure. But I feel as if players like simple structures as opposed to kind of long, complicated ones.
It's lovely to see your home wins, no doubt about that. This is a very simple one, Rob. Can we please have the XTC music back, as opposed to Blood All Over, which is the Crystal Palace song, Swindon's own XTC.
Where's the media team? Can I say? There they are. They're hiding. Dave will sort it out. Thanks, Dave.
Marvellous. Who likes XTC in here? There you go. Fair enough. Sandro, this is for you. Can you explain how the scouting network works, especially non-league? Saidu Khan, another find. Obviously, players in non-league. There's another question here about a player, if I can find it. Macaulay Longstaff, Notts County, 14 goals already. How does it work, the scouting network?
I'd love us to have a network. It's a slightly streamed down version of that. Again, look, that's why being able to use data is so important, especially for a club of our size, because we don't have a huge army of scouts. Other clubs I've worked at, have a lot of scouts. So predominantly we, the numbers filter it down. Then we watch a lot of video of players. We'd all watch a hell of a lot of video of players, and I think that's one of the big kind of developments in the game. Looked over probably the last 5 to 10 years or so, the fact that you can watch thousands of in multiple different scenarios and situations, then we can get eyes on. So we've got a couple of other people that scout for us. We can always get someone to a game, someone that we trust, whose opinion we really respect. But we don't have quite a network of scouts just yet.
Why are you changing your name to Billy? I mean, Moneyball gets thrown at your lot. It's a great film, great story. Oakland Athletics, blah, blah, blah. Goes to Boston Red Sox are interested in Billy Bean. I mean, explain, is it based on Moneyball or not?
Moneyball is the example that people understand, right? And the principle's kind of similar, but there'd be so many other elements that we try and incorporate data into our way of thinking and our way of kind of trying to find the solutions of how we can improve and look to do better. Scott touched on it earlier. We've had a 10-game review, Scott, myself and the coaching staff and the analysts, and that's something that is data driven. And then we use Scott's expertise in the team and we video footage to kind of bring it to life and make it tangible. And then that goes and gets played out on tweaks and changes that Scott and the staff will make on the training ground. That's one element. We've got a lot of kind of predictive models that we look at in terms of how we're tracking in relation to other sides and our percentage chance of finishing in every position in the league and our total expected points for the season. There's lots of different elements and ways that we'll kind of look at things. So recruitment, I suppose, is the one that we always talk about, the one that has the most attention, but we try and use data in lots of other ways just to try and make us smarter. We haven't even gone in and spoken about the work that our medical team and our sports science team do. There's huge amounts of data that's used on that, and we'll look at running distances and high speed running and sprints and accelerations and decelerations and look at the performances of that and then match that up with the performance data of how we perform as a team to try and look at correlations and patterns between that. We look at players, things like players' body fat percentages and weight, and then how that relates to their performance, and can we find patterns between their peak physical condition and then their peak performance data. So there's lots of different ways that we look, and I think it's the way that most modern businesses go. You don't have to be in football. I think everyone in this room probably will work in companies that use data to try and be more efficient, and and we're using it on the non-football side as well. So Billy Bean's and Moneyball's the obvious one, but used in lots of different ways.
I'm glad I'm retired if they're going to measure fat content. Well, actually, here's a supplementary question. And what was the thinking with bringing rugby coaches? It seems to have worked. Obviously, Ricky, he was a rugby player. This is the older Verrata. Hello. I mean, let's have a word about the medical staff, etc. I mean, they do a fantastic job behind the scenes, don't they?
Yeah, they're amazing. You know, the guys that have come into the club that have done that: Adam, Joe, Ricky, George, Ali, the physio. But yeah, they're exceptional at what they do. I think the best way of demonstrating how good they are. Look at the minutes Johnny Williams played last season. Look at the minutes Ben Gladwin played last season. Look at the minutes they're playing this season. If you want to see a tangible and a realistic example of how good they are, you only need. I think Johnny Williams played something like 25 minutes of his total career minutes last season at Swindon. So that speaks volumes, you know, and that sits in a lot of about presentations when we sit down and sell the club to players. I think rugby is really important. I think actually rugby, both union and league, union in the case of Ricky and George, is a sport that is, I think it's quite a long way ahead of football. I think it's quite advanced in its thought processes and its thinking. We're still yet to see subs warming up on spin bikes, aren't we? But we've seen that in rugby. There's loads of different examples and loads of different elements. But I think also different ways of thinking are really important for how you drive improvements within a football club. So having people that come from a different background have been really key to us being better. And we've also got guys, you know, that come from kind of a boxing background, a fighting background. So kind of that MMA and type world as well. And again, if you look at the camps that fighters go into, there's an awful lot we can learn from that as well. So, and I think when you're a club at our level, we don't have the budget, but that doesn't mean we can't think better and smarter than a lot of clubs that are much higher up the football pyramid than ourselves.
Yeah, we can kind of look at the data into that side of things as well. Work really closely with Ricky and George, and we look at the data in terms of running distances and that, and little things like we know as a team we want to be running over 104,000 miles, kilometers. Sorry, miles. In order for us to not win a game, so we kind of really look at the detail of that. Each player, what distance they're covering, meters per minute, live feed on the bench, meters per minute speak. So I'll turn to John and say, right, you know, how's these meters per minute looking? And he's like, he's down a bit. He's about 103 meters per minute. Right, it needs to be up. So you put a message on. You need to go up on your running stats. You know, and it's important. So yeah, I work really closely with George and Ricky, and have a great relationship with them, and I listen to them a lot as well in terms of our loading through the week. So we'll have a real structure from Monday to Friday of how we work, and we'll look at day one, we want to be covering X amount of distance, day two, X amount of distance, and by the end of the week, we should be prepared and ready to go into a League Two match. Furthest this season, I think, is Ronan Darcy. I think so. Saidu Khan, really high. Yeah, they cover a lot of distance. They do cover a lot, but that's important. You know, like I say, there's usually a movement in terms of when we're successful, and when we do that, either lose or draw. If we're that marker, we normally win. So it's important that we keep on at the players in terms of covering them distances. Really important.
Should say congratulations to Ali and Kian as well, actually, for their impending expectation after the new year. So, you know, congratulations, Ali and Kian. Yeah, go on, round of applause, go on. She might be a bit slower running on the pitch, but, you know, that'll be fine. Tim, I think we've got a question from the audience now.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to this undisclosed. You gave me a very good reason why the reasons were. I think the only club that protected was Hibernian. I think all of us loved Harry McCurdy when he was here. He was a cult figure. But we got him for nothing. Did we get the one best season out of him that he was going to produce? And I just think if the fans knew how much we got for him, that would have taken pressure off you four guys sat there around your neck. If the results hadn't gone the right way, there's a part of me, in the 51 years I've supported the club, last year's manager was the most divisive manager we've had with the support. I found that he split the support more or less straight down the middle. There was times when it literally come to blows with the pro and the against Ghana camp. I'm really pleased that we've got a manager who's showing some passion and actually is fan friendly. So I just think that it protected Burnian. I think if we'd have known what we got for Harry McCurdy, a lot of us would have said it might have been good business. Time to move on.
Okay, do you want to? I mean, we've been, we'll ask.
I don't think I'm allowed to say anyway. I think we'd get in trouble with Hibs. I suppose that you're not going to get the answer that you want. So I'll be blunt from the start. But Harry's contract was up at the end of the season, and we had to ensure that we took a decision that was the best possible decision for the football club financially. What I would say is part of the reason why it took so long to get the deal over the line and why it went so late into the night, and why a lot of us were probably left the county ground at about 2 a.m, was that's a really strong position to be in as a selling club on deadline day. The reality is you don't really want to be a buying club, but you do want to be a selling club. And that enabled us to really drive a really, really strong deal. And the other thing that I can say is that there's a fee that's been paid for Harry, but there are other add-ons and sell-ons within the deal as well. So again, it's a very club-friendly deal for us. And again, we talk about club-friendly deals in terms of the contracts we offer to players. We want to make sure when we sell players, they're club-friendly as well. So you have the add-ons, you have the sell-ons. So there's the opportunity to keep driving revenue and bringing transfer money into the club off the back of those. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are really happy. I think maybe at the end of last season, you pluck a figure out your head that you'd like. But I suppose it's a little bit like selling your house. It's only worth what someone's prepared to pay for it. And I think Harry himself had ideas on where he wanted to go and the level he wanted to play at as well. But the transfer window was different this summer as it is every summer. I think it was really, really slow to start with, and there wasn't loads of activity, and then it sort of seemed to go absolutely mental in the last 7 days or so. Yeah, there were some other clubs showing interest in him, but the one thing that you want to make sure doesn't happen at the end of the window is you get yourself into this situation where you get too greedy and you end up with egg on your face, and that's kind of what can happen sometimes if you try and bring too many people to the table too late in the day. You can end up in a difficult situation. So it does turn into a little bit of a poker match, and it's a case of how do we make sure we've got the best deal for the club and the one that we think is guaranteed and is definitely going to happen, and combined obviously with the player being happy, that the player's happy with their personal terms and it's a club they want to move to, and all of those things considered, I think the club's really happy with the deal, and most importantly as well, I think Harry's really happy with the opportunity that he's got. He was a wonderful servant to the football club in a short period of time. He built a real affinity with the fans. I think he'll almost be like the poster boy for what we're trying to do at this football club, to an extent that we're bringing undervalued and underdeveloped talent, give them a brilliant environment and a platform to showcase their talent from, and then if the right opportunity comes, we won't stand in their way. If it's financially the best decision for the football club.
Could I add to that?
Hang on. It's very difficult because we're on the Tom Broadbent Lounge at the moment, and they can't hear if you just suddenly shout. So if you'll forgive me, we'll wait till the microphone gets. We've got more questions too from the Tom Broadbent Lounge. I'd like to ask you a question, sir.
Just to add to that, I think you comprehensively answered the Harry McCurdy issue, but all the transfers in the transfer window are undisclosed. It's difficult for fans to judge what's going on when all you ever read is that player left undisclosed, that player was bought undisclosed. So why were all the transfers undisclosed?
Yeah, yeah. I think clubs are of a similar position. Really, they all kind of want that confidentiality, and probably think that it helps them for the fee not to be disclosed. So it can help in the negotiating process for new players. So really, I'm afraid it's not original, but I mean, look, it doesn't make it an awful lot easier from our own perspective. You know, with fees being undisclosed, you've got to do a bit more digging. You've got to lean on your contacts, other agents, and other people in the game to try and find out what people have moved for. So it's a little bit challenging. I appreciate it's not great for fans. It's one of the, I suppose it's something that's changed within the game to an extent.
Ellis from the Tom Broadbent Lounge.
Yes. One in from our friend Hannah's. Will you be running any double headers of the women's team after the men's game to maximise the crowd size / interest?
Yeah, that is something. So that's on the double headers. That's something we're looking into, and we're looking actually to do one relatively soon. But I think the Women's League didn't approve it. But we're hopefully looking to trial one coming up shortly. So watch this space. It'd be great to see the women's team play on the county ground, as Clem said, which is going to happen this season. I think the idea of a double header hopefully would go down really well, and lots of people would stay, to watch the women's team play after a men's game. It would be. That's true. But look, and there is a cost element to that. But look, we want to support the women's team. As Clem said, we've made those strides. We think there's great opportunity for the women's team, women's game. The right thing to do, and it'd be great to see both teams progress up the leagues together.
Any more, Ellis?
Yeah. You've improved the community partnerships a lot in recent years. What more do you plan to do around school and young people engagement for the next generation of fans?
Look, I think the football club does a great amount. I have to say our community foundation is fantastic as well. John and Shane do a great job there. We work very closely with them. We've got the schemes that we've got working with the Supporters Trust as well, and Mike Welsh, the president there, to get out to local schools, youth football clubs, and have ticketing initiatives. With follow-ups. It's really important for us that we build that next generation of fans and we grow the fan base. We want to see the county ground full. That's the key thing for us. So we're looking at more things we can do in that space. We're looking to see if actually there's some partners or sponsors out there who want to help us with these community ticketing initiatives, because that would help us grow them really and make them broader. So if there's anybody out there who's keen to sponsor and help with that, we've got James Watts, our new commercial manager. He can wave his hand up there in the crowd. He's there ready to work with our partners and sponsors to see if they're interested in helping us along with the foundation to grow those schemes and get young children interested in football and being more active, and equally being Swindon Town fans.
Okay. Yes, of course.
Just on that as well, we've got a competition that we're running. We're going to be announcing this week. Oh, sorry. Whoa. Sorry about that. The competition is for children in schools or young fans to draw their favourite Swindon player. I think the competition I don't know when it's going to be for, but it'll be for a game at home to be a mascot. So yeah, that should help to maybe get some kids from local schools involved. Be announced this week. I don't know the details. That's a very rough idea of the competition, but drawing your favourite player, or drawing your favourite Clem, or Scott, or Sandra, or Rob. We'll accept all.
Right, here we go. This is an interesting one. Did Lee Power buy the Andrew Black debenture? And if yes, is he charging the football club interest payments? Clem, what is the situation with the Andrew Black debenture? Can you tell us?
The debentures have been sorted out, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So there is a debenture on the club, but hopefully that'll be because of the legal issues. Hopefully they'll be sorted out. We'll give you some good news in the next week or so.
So, is it fair to say it's being paid?
Yes.
There you go. Right, this is now, I don't know, but those of us who go to away games, home games, etc., and buy a bottle of fizzy stuff, to drink, this is a really annoying, I don't know, you can't actually answer this. Can we have bottle tops back on?
Having been a fan for many years and taking my children into almost every stand here apart from the Stratton Bank because it's not been open for fans during the time. Really, I get the frustration. I really do. We talk regularly with our stadium manager and safety officer. I understand it, and we are checking and testing the rules. That as you're selling, a carbonated drink, and when it fizzes up, it can be quite a weapon and a missile. The advice we get from the safety authorities is to remove the lid. Now, that's because if we don't, we could get into trouble with those safety authorities. Now we are reviewing it because I get the frustration. I've been there myself with kids and trying to manage the kids where you've got a bottle open is really difficult. I haven't tried that myself. Something we're reviewing, but as we understand at the moment, the safety rules are that we're not allowed to do that. Others might do, but as I say, we'll continue to review the situation. But that's why we've got that policy at the moment.
It is annoying. Everybody, it is. It's simple as that. Alice, you got any more?
Yes. Give me 2 seconds. What is Chris Kiley's role at the club? And that's from Nathan.
This helps me with data and so yeah, that's what he does for us.
Thank you. Another one. Given the cost of living crisis, are there any plans to do discounted tickets or something like bring a mate in for a £5 and deals for kids, etc.?
Just want to make me run backwards and forwards, don't you? I'm an old chap. Give me a break.
I'll keep you fit. So look, I mean, it's something that we're considering looking at. I think when we come out with the match day bundles and the half season tickets, I think we'll offer some really good value tickets. Obviously, we've got a balance. We've got to generate obviously the revenue of the club to continue to build it, pay the debts, build the foundations, as Clem says, and we've got obviously own rising costs ourselves. But it's something that we're keen to look at. Especially as we get more demand from fans and fill the stadium. It'd be great to see another game where we've got sufficient demand to open the Stratton Bank, like we did against Barrow last year. So it's something considered to look at. I think you'll see some good value deals coming through, as I say, in the next month or two. And what we have got is great value in terms of season tickets, which really do give great value, and half season tickets will do as well when they come on sale.
Right, goal kicks. Why do we persist with short goal kicks when we always seem to get in a right mess with them? Mr. Scott Lindsay.
We want to be dominant. We want to be in control of the game. If we kick a goal kick and it goes up the pitch by 60 yards and 10 yards in the air, it's a toss of a coin. A, who's going to land on it? First action. Second action, who's going to pick the second ball up? By playing out from the back, we're giving ourselves more of a platform to be in control with the ball and bring the ball up through. If you look at how we set up with a goalkeeper, 2 centre-halves on either side, and every other player is away from that action. And normally they have 2 ready to press. So in effect, we're playing 3v2 in half a pitch. If you used to say to me, we're going to play 3v2 in half a pitch, I know what side I'd want to be on. The idea is to draw a press towards you. And then we want to try and play round through or over the press from there. And subsequently trying to work the ball with that control through the thirds of the pitch. And we feel that there's a lot of joy can be had from it. Saturday, prime example, second goal, came from that exact action. Sol rolls it 2 yards to the centre half. Clayton has the ball. Fraser Blake Tracy comes in the pitch off the shape, play through. 8 passes later, the ball's in the net. Now, that doesn't happen every time, obviously, because there's 11 other players out there trying to stop us from doing that. If we could play from A to B in one pass and stick it in their net, I would do it every time. But there's, unfortunately, like I say, 11 other players out on the pitch trying to stop us from doing that. So it's not that simple, just to go boom up there. And I believe that when you kick it from A to B in the air, 60 yards, it's a toss of a coin. It's a toss of a coin. We did a study on it last time I was there at Swindon in 2015, and the study kind of told us that every time we kick it off the ground, up the pitch, within 30 seconds, our goalkeeper's making a save again. When we played out from the back, played through the thirds, within 30 seconds, their keeper always certainly having an attacking action from the back end of that. So that's the reason why we do it. We want to be dominant. We want to be controlled. We want to be in charge of the game and in charge of the ball by kicking it 60 yards up the pitch. Listen, there's times when we have to. If they put a mad press on, we can't invite the press because the press is already there. Then yeah, we have to. But we have to be smart with how we do it. We have to be positioned properly. We have to make sure that not just are we positioned properly for the first action, but we're ready for the second, third, and fourth action after which.
I just want to add to that as well. Like set pieces are one of the most important parts of the game, and they always will be. And goal kicks are another set piece, and they give you the opportunity to do what you want to do and dictate the way you want the game to go. So I don't think people always view goal kicks as a set piece, but they are a set piece, and they're a really, really important one.
Okay, we've got some more from the floor, I think. Oh, hands going up, little group there. Who wants first? There we go, in the middle. Then we'll go back front or front to back. What is it? Right, okay.
So firstly, to put this on tonight, it's much appreciated. Built on the point just made there, Scott Sandro, could you just Harrogate away? You're set up in a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, and we've now gone sort of what looks like 4-3-3. Was that a conscious decision, or was it just a question of a reflection of where we were in recruitment at that point in time?
No, I think with the players that we've recruited, I think we can play 3-5-2. We can play 4-diamond-2. We can play 4-3-3 like we are at the moment. I think there's kind of similarities in all them formations. I think the 3-5-2 gives us width, depth, distance, and still your 3-man in midfield. I think you look at the 4-3-3, gives you width, depth, distance, and 3-man in midfield. Same with the 4-diamond-2. So if we have them 3 things, width, depth, distance, depth being the centre halves can always chop out and play. Width is an obvious one. Distance meaning the centre forwards can stretch them that way. Then we feel that there'll be enough spaces in the middle of the pitch to go and play and pick pockets and get your Gladwins, your Darcys on the ball and play. So there's, in my opinion, very similarities in terms of the 3-5-2 or like we're playing at the moment, 4-3-3. The 3-5-2 obviously gives 2 strikers as well, which I know supporters like to see that. But I also feel that there's, I think, especially in League Two, I think a lot of League Two teams like to play against 2 strikers. You ask most centre halves in League Two, they want to mark 2 strikers. I think it becomes difficult when you've got a Jacob Wakeling coming in off the left, you've got a Johnny Williams coming in off the right, and you've got a Jeff Cott floating in between the 2 strikers. They don't know whether to mark, whether to go in tight, whether to drop off, and it confuses them slightly. And then to add to that, you've got the real pace of Tyrese Shade as well, you know, so it's difficult for oppositions to mark a 4-3-3. So yeah, there's pluses and minuses to all, to kind of both systems, but there was no real change in my opinion. I think there's going to be times when I'll go back to a 3-5-2. Depending on who you're playing against. I think it probably suits if you're playing against 2 strikers to play against back 3. If you play against a front 3, it doesn't. So again, it depends on who you're playing against.
Are there plans going forward with purchasing our own training ground?
We're trying to buy the stadium first, so let's try to buy that, and then we'll look at the training ground. But yeah, obviously we are. We're trying to, but at the end of the day, we're trying to buy the stadium first and all the developments.
Just as a subsequent to that, isn't there a deal to be done with Supermarine with Webswood Stadium? I mean, you've got so many facilities up there close to it. He's obviously a Swindon fan. I don't know.
Oh, look, we speak to Jez quite a bit. Yeah, I think there is a deal that could be done, but obviously we're looking at all options.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of the summer then. You gave him the opportunity to re-establish his career. Were you personally disappointed by Ben Garner's decision to leave and the manner in which it happened? In that he's obviously talking to Charlton through those Port Vale games.
Yeah, look, we gave him the opportunity to come to Swindon. Was I disappointed? Yeah, look, I understood his position. He wanted to go to a bigger club, but I don't begrudge anyone wanting to leave if they want to further their career. I don't have any issues with it. So, look, I've had a lot of people come and go, and like I've said before, no one's bigger than the club.
Okay, a question from Twitter. Evening all, a friend of mine has asked me to ask a question towards the non-playing staff. Given the amount that have left the club recently, some of whom have left without jobs to go to, from the outside looking in, it looks as though everything is not right in the background.
No, I don't agree. Listen, we came into the club. Look, there was a lot of mess here, and I'll tell you that now. People have left for their own reasons and stuff like that. There's certain people that we didn't want to go, but they left. No, I don't think the club's quite strong at the moment. We've got really strong people, from our players to our back of house staff to everybody. So no, I don't agree with that.
Thank you. Next one. Do you have any plans to encourage people to attend during the World Cup, which is an opportunity to increase attendances with no Premier League games?
Well, I think it's a great thing for the EFL more broadly, and we'll be looking to do our best to encourage people to come and watch Swindon. I've got a mate of mine who said on a WhatsApp group that we've got, I went to school with, I'm missing football this weekend. I said, real football's on, mate. Yeah, forget the Premier League, the real football's already on. So I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's also a great opportunity for us to do the Legends Bar a bit more regularly when obviously the England games are on as well. And maybe Wales as well, and cheer Johnny Williams on. But no, I think it's something that we'll definitely look at and remind people that there's a great game of football down at the county ground, and forget the multi-millionaires in the Premier League.
How about the World Cup, Scott? Because obviously, there's going to be a lot of attention on that. You've got league games to play. We don't, how is it going to be an interference or not?
Possibly, because we lose Johnny Williams, maybe, so that's the biggest thing for me. Of course, you want Johnny to go there and have a World Cup and enjoy himself, but it's going to be a big loss for us, that's the biggest thing for me. And it will be just kind of business as normal. We'll be preparing and getting on with our season, and of course, it'll be the games to watch at certain times, so that'll be hopefully exciting.
Scott, how are you finding it changing to the first team coach personally?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed my time. I think, like I said earlier, I need to manage my time better. Like I say, I've put everything into it, and I just need to be efficient. And that's the biggest thing: is when you're an assistant, you can have days off and switch off. You can kind of go home and see your family and have a normal life. When you're a head coach, you can't as much anyway, so that's been the biggest difference is is kind of the work that's had to go in. But like I say, it's down to me to manage my time better than I am at the moment.
Yeah. Another one. Regardless of legalities, what protection does the club/fans have in regards to the ground? If Clem sells the club, the club's 50% would be controlled by the owner.
I don't think Clem's going to sell anytime soon, so don't have to worry too much about this. But in terms of the ground purchase, what you've got is a 50-50 deadlock deal between the club and the supporters. So, you know, that's deadlock. So, you know, that they have to work together on compromise. So we've structured that, you know, Clem and myself working with the Supporters Trust and the Supporters Club and other groups to make sure that, you know, that for generations to come, you know, the county ground becomes an asset for the club, for the supporters, and provides that legacy. So the fact that it forces them together means, you know, that it provides that protection.
Sell the club? Fair enough. Sorry to ask. I know. Sorry, go on.
It's a protection for all fans. It's not for the club. It's a protection for the fans for generations to come. So when I'm on or whatever, the fans will always own the stadium, and that's what we've done.
Fabulous. Right. I know Rob at the back has a question about a certain competition. Rob, if you want to just indicate to Tim where you are, please. Sorry. Go on.
Hello all. It's about the EFL trophy and the reserves. We don't have a combination anymore. We used to have a football combination for all those people who were old enough like me to remember watching it. But the EFL trophy is much maligned by every football fan, I think. And the timing of it in the middle of the season, these group games, you get such poor attendances. You're at an EFL meeting tomorrow. I wonder if the future of the EFL trophy might be under discussion.
I've got a really strong view on the competition, and that's probably, I don't think me and you are going to agree on it, but I think it's a really, really valuable competition because, especially for clubs like ourselves that don't have an under-21 set up or under-23s or B team or whatever you want to call it, it's a brilliant opportunity to get young footballers real good, serious first-team experience. You know, people sort of don't speak highly of the competition. Look at that Argyle team that came down here last Tuesday and the quality of the team they played and how many of those players have played on Sunday against Ipswich that sent them top of League One. So you can't tell me that the players that went out and played in that game for Swindon Town didn't learn a lot from that experience. I appreciate from a supporter's perspective, it might not be quite as engaging and cut and thrust as a league game, but I think from our perspective in terms of player development, we learn a lot about it and we learn a lot about our players from playing in the competition. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't know what you'd add, Scott.
Yeah, no, what I wanted to add to it is from a supporter's point of view, I think you should embrace it more and watch these youngsters. I think, like, you know, you watch the Ben Gladwins, the Johnny Williams play every Saturday, and you know kind of what they're about. But to go and watch Mo Dabra against a Plymouth, I think you should embrace it. Because I, as a coach, embrace it because I want to give these youngsters a chance and an opportunity and an experience. And I think that there's been a lot of negativity about kind of the sides I've picked, but I think it should be embraced more by the fans. You know, I think it can be only seen as a positive from my point of view. I really do believe that. You know, because these are the players that potentially could be in the team next year in the first team on a Saturday. So, you know, come down and watch the George Cowmeadows and you know, Mo Dabras and, you know, the young lads that have played. I think it's great. I really do.
Sorry, just quickly on it as well. 1 second. When I've worked at other clubs, I've gone and watched a lot of these games to go and watch a Man United under-21 team or a Man City under-21 team or a Chelsea under-21 team. Premier League 2 is a brilliant competition, but it's very, very technical, quite tactical, but there's no physicality in it. So the academy system in this country is wonderful, but it doesn't develop and prepare a lot of footballers for where most of them are going to end up spending their career, which is in the EFL. And you get to see good young players that maybe aren't going to make the grade at Man City or Man United. You get to see what they're like when they're getting kicked up in the air at Scunthorpe. And I've seen the likes of Cole Palmer and I think Shola Shoretire and some of these players at the big academies go and do well, and you see how they are. And also that then has an impact on us as a club, because those are some of the players that we might look to sign on loan, or a Tom Clayton who ends up coming to this club, or a Marcel Lavinia, and these are the types of players that you get to get an idea of what these lads are going to be like if they come in and play at this level. So it's definitely a development competition, but I think if you view it from a slightly kind of further back kind of perspective, and view it more as a development product as opposed to solely about winning, maybe you'll start to appreciate it a little bit more.
On that point, if it's such a great opportunity, why don't you make it free to ticket holders? Going on from that, the first round of the League Cup, make it free to season ticket holders. First round of the FA Cup, make it free to season ticket holders, and make that as an opportunity to sell more season tickets, because you could get drawn away like we have done all the time. You wouldn't lose nothing, but you may sell more season tickets.
The things that we will look at the end of the day, we've got to balance things up, and I equally think it's a really good competition. We do get some additional money from the EFL from participating in it as well, so that helps the club. But we look at these ideas and and work where we can, but we've got to balance the books to make sure that the finances sort of work. It costs quite a lot of money to put a game on. You've got security costs, etc. You've got to try and make sure you cover. And the staffing costs as well, but we're always open to looking at ideas and different ways that we can, encourage more people into the ground.
Okay, we've got long left. Whiz through a few questions, if that's okay. What is the situation with the car park? We used to pay for a season ticket for parking, but that suddenly stopped without explanation. What will happen about parking when the hotel is built? This is a town end, of course, which is onto the car.
So the demand for parking that we get, if you like, for disabled parking, the parking we have to provide, for staff, hospitality, etc., means that the spaces are limited. We try and maximise the space available, but the spaces are limited, and the demand that we have outstrips the supply. So it makes it difficult to offer that now outside of disabled supporters who we give priority for in respect of match day parking. And obviously when we have a big game, and the TV cameras are in, they take about half the car park anyway for some reason, and we have to give that to them. And in terms of development, it's obviously something we've got to look at. We're keen to provide some parking on space, but we're going to have to work with the planning regulations on parking as we look to do that. But it'll be something that we're keen to sort of try and make sure we maximise, but there are planning regulations that will that may impact what we can do.
Okay, just to say that if you don't get your question asked tonight, we'll forward them to the club, because I think I've got a whole pile here which we may not get through. Rob and Clem, your thoughts on the government ditching the fan-led review? I think you might well know that this trust said that they're not going to implement it. This is from Matt, the SN10 Reds. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, I think as a Swindon Town fan, and and obviously we've all gone through a difficult time last summer before Clem took over. I think regulation in football was needed. I think the fan-led review was very positive. I was lucky enough to be involved along with other colleagues at the time, the Supporters Trust, to speak to Tracy Crouch and give our club as an example of view as to why better regulation is needed. So I'm a big supporter of the fan-led review. And I think it's something that needs to change. It needs to be better distribution down from the Premier League across the EFL and below in terms of financials. And equally, there needs to be better regulations to ensure that issues that we've seen here, that you've seen at Bury, Macclesfield, other clubs, never happen again. So I really hope that the government do look to implement a lot of the recommendations in the fan-led review.
Okay, this one's for Scott. When Harry was sold, how comfortable were you due to not having signed a replacement and little time left to do so? Were you gain any of his fee, undisclosed, to use on signings? This is from Roy B.
I wasn't uncomfortable because we had targets kind of ready to come in, so we'd done our work already, knowing that if Harry was to leave, we were, we was in a good position. So no, I was never really worried. Listen, the transfer deadline, it became quite late in the day when Harry went, but like Sandro said earlier, it became a stronger position for us more than anything. But we was never worried because, like I say, we had targets in place.
Do you know the words of the Scott Lindsay song? And if yes, who from the past would you choose at the back and in attack?
From the past. We can't change the words, can we? It's got to be McDonald and Wakeling, hasn't it? It's got to be. I can't change it. No, I'm not going to. I refuse.
Fair enough.
The reasons why I refuse is because you might want to change the manager's name as well.
You're right in a minute, honest. And the final one, because I know you gentlemen need to get off, and we got loads more, but we will forward them on. What is the intention of the funds we'll receive from Scott Twine's transfer? Will it reduce club debt or be earmarked for the playing side, e.g. a star player when we get promoted? From Andy. Who wants to take that one?
Yeah. Look, obviously, we're building the club back up. Lots of things that cost money. Obviously, the debts are something that we're getting on top of when we're managing. But we've actually got the stadium here, which costs a lot of money to run, and it's an old stadium that's had no real investment in it for probably over 15 years. So that costs quite a lot of money. There's a lot of work to do. Obviously, buying the ground, developing the ground. But we've also, at the same time, got to make sure we're giving sufficient, budget to Sandro and Scott to strengthen the playing side. So I think, as Clem said, it will be a mixture of everything, really, and working that through and what the priorities are at the time. I think it's a tremendous advert for Swindon Town Football Club and how we've developed Scott Twine, and he's gone on to have a great career. And we hope he goes on and is really successful. And I've Scott, you were a big part of that as well for him. Story. And the money's as they come in, because it is another deal that's phased over a number of years. We'll help the football club, but in many ways.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. I'd like to say thank you to Ellis, Martin and Joe from the Tom Broadbent Lounge at the back there, who worked really hard. And I'm not sure how Joe's managed to keep his arm up like that all night. It's incredible. But I'd really like you to put your hands together, please, for the four gentlemen at the top. Mr. Rob Angus, Chief Executive. Sandra McHaley, the Technical Director. Scott Lindsay, our Head Coach. And the Australian gentleman on the end, Mr. Clem Orfuni. Thank you very much indeed. Here's my boss, Mr. Andy Cousins.
Big round of applause for Vic Morgan. Just to let you know that this gentleman drives voluntarily up from Exminster, which is near Exeter, to do this. So, quite extraordinary. Yeah. And just a couple of things before we go. Very much for attendance. Thank you very much to the four gentlemen here. On our way out, we've got some buckets, if people do have any cash on them now, for the Wiltshire Air Ambulance. I'm sure it's a very deserved cause. And also, if you are interested, as I say, on Monday, October the 3rd, we have Lee Peacock and Christian Roberts here on a Monday night panel. Again, Vic will be our compere. And if you'd like to purchase tickets, they're only £5. They're available as you go out as well. So once again, thank you so much for coming out tonight, and we'll see you on Saturday.
They didn't really shy away from much either. If whatever they could answer, they did. I really enjoyed it.
Mate, talk about shying away from answers, shying away from questions. Ellis did not.
No,
mate,
I was asking took some absolute stones from that.
You did take some stones. Fair play, mate. I ain't got black eyes, so I take that as a positive.
Yeah, they'll wait for you in the car park.
Yeah. The car's been keyed 15 times. Now, I won't keep the stream going much longer. Obviously, we had almost 3 hours. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to that. Obviously, it'll be recorded on Twitter, so listen back at your will. Spotify, YouTube, hopefully as well. So, yeah, everyone listening, listen again. Thank you for your questions. Obviously, I'll do the draw when I get home of the Dan Designs competition. I'll message the winners of that competition with your prize. It'll be a Clem Morfuni print or a Scott Lindsay print. One straight for the man cave, I believe, or the fridge. We've got a Dean McMackin coming in. Oh, he's having a fight with Martin. We'll leave it at that. Anyway, guys, yeah, thank you very much for listening. Make sure you listen in on Saturday. We'll have the match day live from the Legends Lounge for the visit of Northampton. Yeah, as I say, usually we'd end with the views in this show are not those of the football club, but this time, in fact, it is the views of the football club. So, yeah, thank you very much for listening to Storm Broadbent Lounge. Night all.